They're going to bring the Solid Waste Management Authority meeting into order. Please call the roll, please.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Here.
Commissioner Short,
I'm here.
Commissioner Greeno,
Here.
Commissioner Wright,
Here.
Chair Wilson.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And we call any member of the public to address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter other than that on or off the agenda. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to make a comment. Any public comment at this time? Seeing none, we shall retire to closed session. Thank you. Want to thank you for your patience. We will call this meeting back into order. There is nothing to report out of closed session. So we open it for public comment. Anyone who wishes to address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter other than that on or off the agenda? Yes. Yes. We're close. Exact, I understand that. That'll bring us, let's go ahead and address to the consent agenda. Yeah, we got time for a bad one too. Anything on the consent agenda? You have a motion?
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
Second? Motion. You have a motion and a second? Any public comment on the consent items on the consent agenda? Seeing or hearing none, please take a roll.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes.
So the joke you were looking for.
Yeah, whoever's got the
is how are insurance coverage and a hospital gown alike? In both cases, the coverage you're looking at up front is rarely the same as the coverage you get in the end.
It is 4:10. We will call for a public comment. Anyone wishing to address the authority on any issue on or off the agenda may do so at this time. Having none, seeing none. That'll bring us to our director's reports, please.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. So in the consent agenda, you all just approved authority allocated dumpsters for the 4th of July celebrations and the July 5th cleanup to follow, as well as Del Norte County Fair, and approved our sponsorship of the fair, which we will continue. Staff are reassessing which community events we hold a booth for, and we are considering pulling back from the fair so that we can be present at other community events. We've been presence at every one of the fairs for nearly 30 years, but there are other community events that might be better suited to outreach. So we are reassessing that, but we will continue to be a fair sponsor regardless. Also on the consent agenda were some claims over $5,000. As part of our fiscal controls, are anything over $5,000 needs to be approved, even if it is within the budget. Under our grants, our next community planning meeting, where we're looking at how we can support food rescue activities and organics management, has been shifted to June 17th. And that will be here at the Board of Supervisors chambers from 1 to 3. So that's just before our regular board meeting, but that meeting has been rescheduled to allow a little bit more time for our contractors to prepare some of the information for that meeting. I've been in conversation with Ryan Plotz as a potential legal counsel to replace the services of Bob Black. And although I did have a conversation with him, he said he would follow up by email, and I've had no further contact. I also spoke to Will Folger today as a possible management representative for union negotiations. That was a very positive conversation, and I believe we'll be able to work something out. He seems a reasonable professional whose skills will add to the authority's benefit, I believe, in those negotiations. Let's see, moving on to other things that are not otherwise covered in the agenda. I guess I'll ask Kira to give us a little update about her attendance on the Del Norte as a member of the Del Norte Emergency Feeding Task Force to a meeting down in Humboldt. Kira, you want to tell us a little something about that?
Apologize, my throat's a little bit scratchy right now, but it was an excellently attended meeting of a lot of different agencies, all working towards trying to shore up rural and coastal Regency counties, agencies, and jurisdictions disaster planning. And in this case, it was what to do with feeding and what to do right away with feeding. So I'm part of the emergency feeding task force here, and our goal was to come up with a plan that would function in our community and that we would be able to make a living document and that would be able to sort of get tied seamlessly to the Office of Emergency Services and that people could plug into and out of as need be. And we're still working on that, but this conference, we were lucky enough to stay with and work with the Social Security of Emergency and Disaster Response out of Sacramento, and they will be coming to our meetings, and it was very great. It was great to meet with them. We really did a lot of bonding and built partnerships with these agencies.
And I understand you also met a representative from Regional Food Bank in Santa Rosa. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why that's relevant to our situation?
Yes, we met the Redwood Empire Food Bank. I can't remember her title. I'm very sorry, but she was very interested in meeting with us, hanging out in the little Del Norte section at the conference, and she has a lot of ties with taking, basically, because she's part of the food hub. So a lot of our tier 1 and tier 2, actually mostly just tier 1, our big grocery stores that are meant to be doing food rescue for 1383 are doing that, but they're using Redwood Empire Food Bank and Hub to ship food out of the community, and then some comes back. But so we, talking with her, realized that the communication between our agencies isn't fantastic or in existence that much, really. So she will be coming up and joining our meetings so that we can really work together and have the whole system, hopefully, with our local food, perhaps staying a bit more local to help us out.
Yeah, my only recommendation is we already have very robust food distribution networks already established in this community. So getting the supplies, out of the food stream and into the hands of the producers already, whether it's a senior center, whether it's the Palo-Adani, whether it's the UROC, because they're RHS especially, because we have food bank distributions, whether it's to the homeless or whether it's to Fort Dix, Smith River, Gasky, Hyuchi. There's distribution hubs already pre-established for distribution of food already coming into the area, and any additional food stream that would enhance or augment that would be, easier to just plug into those networks that are already pre-established.
Absolutely.
As opposed to, trying to create some kind of,
Yeah, we're
other NGO that's going to try to step into that pre-existing
we're not
world.
interested in recreating a wheel in any way.
No.
We're trying to support all the things we already have going, and we're trying to find gaps and fill those gaps.
Yeah.
And towards that end, in our discussions with our contractors that are helping us do these community organization meetings, one of the things that we have concluded is that we need to have some targeted meetings addressing food rescue as a separate topic. because as you point out, there are a variety of groups currently working on that, and the people who are talking about food rescue and redistribution, that's their focus. And so,
Right, but again, we don't need more.
well,
We need, we need resources being plugged into the pre-existing systems. We don't need to create, triple duplication, triple,
absolutely.
we don't need to have more people doing the same work. We can, we definitely need more resources plugged into the system, that's for sure.
That's exactly right. We have a very robust food rescue system. We are working on communication between all of the people all the players. And what we mainly were working on are things when disasters overwhelm our systems. And so what we can come up with to fill gaps and in interims. So I think that we also found out that Salvation Army can right away, if there's a disaster, have and pay for local restaurants and delis to produce meals.
Yeah, they've
And
been
get
doing
those.
that for
And that's
years.
fantastic. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's something that we've taken advantage of numerous times through Red Cross and through other resources.
Oh yeah, and Red Cross we've worked with for a long time, but
Yeah.
but
Getting lunches and breakfasts and dinners provided to.
but it's that
to
sort
our
of
shelters.
thing that we would like all of the players to know each other and work with each other.
Yeah,
And so-
I know that's a process that our
That's what
emergency
makes it a
service-
very
emergency
big
services have done
process.
it, and utilize those resources already. I know, and again, integrating those resources and having more provisions, especially during crisis emergencies, because I know, just on the outlying of Del Norte County, those that live close into the city, they have the resources available through those provisions,
Mhm.
whether it's Walmart or Safeway or whatever. But once you get out to the tribes, to Yurok or Klamath, Smith River, they don't have those.
No,
And
that's
and-
true.
And the
It's-
process of isolation, that can be very problematic, especially on the staples.
Those are
Because
exactly-
they don't have that. There truly is very, very little access to those kinds of fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, those kinds of things in many of those locations, because even the dollar store or Dollar General, they don't have and they don't carry large amounts or even much amounts of fresh produce or fresh foods.
That's
Um,
exactly the gaps that I'm talking about, because we're rural, because of our geography.
Right.
It's logistically difficult to get food away from convenience zones.
Particular foods.
Yeah.
Most, like I say, comes down to the staple, the eggs, the milk, butter, those kinds of things are much more difficult. Fresh fruits and vegetables are much more difficult to get, and that's why they really try to address that through DHSS by having their trailer and their resources to be able to go out into these areas and try to bring more of that fresh produce out to those areas and concentrate on that kind of thing, especially within and the deliverables amongst the school district, trying to get more nutritious meals out during and after schools are in session. Thank you.
No, I'd be happy to roll on to the financial reports. So looking at our balance sheet, we've got 2.9 million in the bank plus 198,000 for last month's rent. You can look at our accounts receivable aging summary, and anything 90 days or over has been turned over to collections. Grateful to Kathy Brewer for her good management of those accounts. Looking at claims approved by director, once again, the largest expense is to Hambro WSG for the good services they provide at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. In this case, the next largest expenses were to the interfund cost plan to the county for auditing and human resource services, and then also a payment to the Donato Community Food Council for coordinating some of those community meetings. Looking at our monthly finances, April indicates the start of the spring and summer months. So once again, revenue is and business is on the uptick. And comparing last month in April, it was a little bit down from the prior year, but on the whole, we continue to be ahead of budget. So at this point at the end of April, we were 102,638 ahead of budget for those revenue streams. So in general, the budget's looking good, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay. So that brings us to Recology. As part of Change Order 19, which extended the service agreement with Recology, contingent upon them swapping out the street side containers and making periodic presentations to the board about how materials are being marketed that are collected in our recycling program. This was thought to be, at the time, a little bit of education about how we're doing about keeping contamination low, and also informing us about where our materials that are being collected in our recycling program are actually being marketed and what they're being made into.
Actually, Shauna's gonna give us a quick presentation just about, you mentioned just the marketable and recyclable. It's actually supposed to be a report from the waste zero specialist on everything that she does for the community. So we're gonna start there, and then we'll get into some of the other marketable items.
No, I like to talk a lot. I'm so nervous right now. Okay. So thank you for having me. I'm going to talk about sharing the work we've been doing with recycling, education, and outreach. I don't know what's wrong with me right now. So we've taken a broad and active approach to engage our community and promote sustainability through radio, newspaper ads, social media, and school partnerships. We have brought recycling education to the forefront, especially with third grade presentations across all Del Norte County Unified Schools. In addition to the visits at the schools, we have expanded into early childhood education programs like Yurok Head Start, Houndquet Head Start, and expanding Youth Horizons. We've made strong efforts to engage with local businesses, offering education and outreach to several establishments, including places like Safeway, Starbucks, Taco Bell, Wild Rivers Market, the Del Norte Senior Center. I go and I speak to all of them. Yurok Indian Housing, the list just goes on and on. We have Alexander Dairy, St. Vincent de Paul. Along with outreach, we support ongoing programs like the Solid Waste Task Force, the Metros Recycling Program, and high-level educational symposiums like the Waste Zero Symposium and Cal Recycle webinars. We also make our presence known at community events like the Del Norte County Fair, Water Days, and community cleanups. Beyond that, we participate in support a wide range of local events, everything from the Veterans Day Parade to farmers markets to Touch a Truck, Trunk or Treat, Relay for Life, 4th of July Parade, and caustic cleanups. These events are vital to building familiarity and trust within the community. We have also the Yellow Tag program as well, and that is where our drivers, if they see something wrong in a cart, a recycle cart, they have these yellow tags and they mark the problem and they bring the bottom portion to me, and then I in turn mark that in everyone's account and call them or mail them or just initiate some kind of contact where they know what the problem was and how to fix it. So we have educational booths at community bin locations, waste audits for businesses, and we do continuous residential and multifamily recycling education. Altogether, these efforts reflect our ongoing commitment to make recycling second nature in Del Norte County. Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Okay. Also, just a little more history here recently in the last month or so. During a task force meeting that I was unable to attend to, there was discussion during a Cal Recycle report about what is acceptable in Delaware County. This made a conversation between Ted and the director and Chandra, and I was not there, that when they got down to the list, Chandra's like, wait a minute, this is on our list for what's acceptable for recology. And Ted, being on different boards and also realizing, knowing what is and what isn't available to go to markets, he's like, wait a minute, number 7, and correct, jump in if I'm wrong. Number 7 is not a marketable item. Why is it on the list? So when it came to me, Chandra and I discussed it. We went forward and, spoke to our people in San Francisco and our sustainability teams and our legal teams and said, where is this? Where did this come from? If it legit. So just giving a little history, it used to be acceptable. Number 7 is other. It's a resin, long ago, before China sword, before different things. There's it was acceptable. It was acceptable when we took over and Jalinder was processing everything here. Somewhere along the lines, it was, there's no more market for it. When I heard this, I agree with Ted. I said, it looks like it needs to be removed. During this research, I've also found out that LDPE number 4, the low density poly, what is that one, Ted? Polyethylene. Yeah, that one's also, there's not a market for it. So finding these things out, I've mentioned to Ted that it looks like we probably need to have some discussions and probably get number 7. And, I just now letting him know about number 4. We hadn't had that verbal discussion yet. So, it was one of those things that he said that he had a discussion with my predecessor. And then there was some, upset feelings about, well, wait a minute, I was told this. And I reached out to that person. And I've also reached out to others. And, there's different conversations. I wasn't privy to any of those. I don't know. So, moving forward, with your guys' direction, we want to come to an agreement and figure out exactly, what we do about these. And, I suggest that we get them removed. The other thing is that when I also did some more research with our agreement with Recology Humboldt, and this agreement came to you guys back in 2017, it looks like, and this was in the agenda back then, and it's our processing agreement. It doesn't say the resin codes, but it does list so many items, and the stuff that it says additional material not included right here in this agreement. If you break these down, it falls, one line falls under number 6, which we don't accept in Delaware County. But then everything else that's on here that says we don't accept falls under number 4 and number 7. So a lot of these things we haven't been accepting, but unfortunately, our literature has the number 7, has the number 4 on it. So when people look, and that's what they're taught to do, they see the number 4, they see the number 7, they're going to do what they're said that it's okay to do. And, doing some research in the other counties, in Curry County, they only accept 1 and 2. And pretty much that's what a lot of places do, 1 and 2, because that actually goes to market. It gets either melted or pelletized. It gets reproduced. We can all agree or disagree that that's great or not great about the, carbon footprint, but that's what's happening. The number 5, that we've now found a market. Recology has a market for that as well. So they said number 5 is still, viable. There was questions about that once upon a time. Even with all that being said, we know that we still get PVC. That's a number 3 item. We still get that in our bins. Ted has a great term, and I use it all the time. I stole it from him when I talk to other people, and it's wish cycling. We still get people wish cycling. We picked up the bin recently from Smith River, and Sean was like, look at this. Railroad ties, wood, PVC, large pieces of metal, rebar. And we've been reaching out, and we know that, she's doing everything she can do right now. We're going to continue to do more. We'd like to get the approval and have the discussion about removing everything from our literature about number 7, number 4. We want to do radio ads to get this corrected. We want to get our stickers redone, get them to Ted for a final approval. Not just the number 7, number 4, but also the pictures. So it's clear, everybody understands that those items are on the unacceptable list, and then move forward. Number 4 is the LDPE. So it's low density.
Mostly plastic bags.
Yeah, it can be, so it does get confusing when we say things can't be recycled. some things can be recycled, but you can't do it in a manner that it can get done. Or you have to ship it so far that, the county, nobody can afford to do it. You can't get it done. So stretch wrap, squeeze bottles, flexible packaging. So some of the large stores, they will take their shrink wrap and they will recycle themselves because they can collect enough of it and get it somewhere. But as far as curbside recycling, that's just, it's just next to impossible. Most of the time that stuff is contaminated as well. And then anything else, Ted?
Well, so what I would recommend is that we return at a subsequent meeting with essentially a layout of the timelines about how we're going to let everybody know this, what's going to happen in the meantime, trying to answer a lot of the questions I'm sure you all have, because this is really the first time we've had a chance to discuss it. And we've got a lot of changes afoot, and we want to make sure they work as smoothly as possible, but we haven't even had a chance to discuss what those changes are and when they might happen.
Yeah, and Ted had requested that I write a letter to you guys, to the board and to him, approaching this, but it just was, I've been getting so much information and talking to our teams, it was just kind of in the infancy, and I just was not prepared to say, let's do, we had a verbal conversation, maybe July 1, because that's kind of when we do some changes, but I didn't write the letter and I didn't present that to you guys today or to Ted this week because it just wasn't ready, so I just thought I'd come and discuss these items with you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you discussed the number 4 items.
Mhm.
What are the number 7 items?
So number
consistent
7
of?
is,
And-
so these are resin codes, the number 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s.
Okay.
And so number 7 is a resin code of other. And so it's a catch-all.
Okay.
And literally you can have numerous amounts of resin codes that fall into that. It's anything above 7 and above.
Oh.
And there's no viable market where they can take this and have these melted or pelletized, where you have one clean resin where you can build something else with it. So
and those just
that's
end up
the
in the
problem.
trash.
Correct.
Okay.
And, a lot of these things, like I said, a lot of these things were on our original agreement list. And, there's film, plastic bags, bubble wrap, cellophane, shrink wrap. Some of that's number 4, hard rigid plastic toys, car seats, automotive. Those have never been accepted. And those are in that number 4 and number 7 category. So it's
Okay.
just,
The-
originally this wasn't very clear as far as resin codes. We never had, except on our literature that went out.
Mm.
And I think that might have been a holdover from previous times. And then, there was a mistake and
the thing
we
that
need to
cons-
get it corrected.
the thing that concerns me about a lot of these that aren't accepted anymore, they have the little recycle me thing
Yeah.
on there,
Oh, every one of them does.
and
yeah.
it's really frustrating for the community and because people think that they're doing the right thing. Hey, we're putting it in the recycle, it's getting done, and it's a lie, really. Is there? I think we should try to reach out to Cal Recycle and see if we can get some of this stuff taken off of these non-recyclable.
That's an excellent point, and
Containers,
that's
because-
exactly what is happening statewide. So
Okay.
this same conversation that we're having is being repeated jurisdiction after jurisdiction, because many communities are in the same boat where what was once termed as recyclable is no longer recyclable. And part of the reason why we're discussing this is we fully intend to follow through on people's good intention. When they properly separate something for recycling and they put it in the recycling bin, we want to make sure those materials get there.
Mhm.
And so as soon as we find out, well, that's not going to work, then we want to update our outreach so that we're not telling anybody to put that.
Okay.
And it was very good that this came about. It kind of came about sideways, but I was happy that it came about. We're all happy that because we all want to do the right thing together. So, and I'm going to suggest that, in the future, whether it be through the task force or through this board, that, and we're also going to have continued presentations from Chandra, the Waste Zero specialist, just updating the board, every 6 months. And so that's going to be calendarized, and either be Chandra or myself. But anyway, it's going to be an ongoing thing, because that also is on the change order 19, so we can, get that complete. That's the last step. So we also have an extension that we're asking for, and that was a few years back, and that's just, the last piece that we need to get done. So with that, I would hope that we will be on top of these more often, and it's not all of a sudden we look back and it's, oh, this should have been dealt with a few years ago. We need to deal with it, more regularly and stay on top of it. But I agree. That is very frustrating with the recycle stamp on there, the numbers in there. You're like, well, I shouldn't have to figure out what number it is, just go. But that's not the way it is, unfortunately.
Well,
There.
would it be helpful if this commission lobbied as a commission? If we put a letter together and send it to Cal Recycle and I mean, I know we're just one voice, but if,
Well, I think this is the right direction and it's the right idea, but there are actions that are already taking place at the state level. If you would like, I can give a summary report about what those actions are, because essentially what I hear you saying, which is we want to be consistent in terms of what we're labeling
absolutely.
as recyclable and what we're actually recycling. And there are absolutely focused statewide efforts, some of which are through the SB 54 Commission, which I've participated in. But
Okay.
there are active things that are slowly changing. But because we are not in the business of producing packages, I generally have not brought those forward to the board for your information, just because it doesn't affect what we do.
I hear you. Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned the Smith River bin.
Yes.
Has it gone back to where we were before, to where we pick up a recycle bin and don't
Yeah,
even try and
just-
recycle it, just take it straight to the
Yeah,
transfer station?
Recently, we did have to take, one or two to the transfer station for dumping because it was way
Has-
over contamination.
So it's
Yeah,
just becoming a free,
We thought it was going
dump
to be
site
great.
again?
It was in a good area. We moved it. There were some changes. We reduced and we put it there. And, it just took a little bit of time for somebody to decide that, they just want to do the wrong thing. And, and it's unfortunate because honestly, those big items that contaminate and, it's probably a small portion of people. And, if you look at it, but it's the process of getting everything out of there and, not making sure that goes somewhere else. So it's difficult, but yeah.
that is tough. But yeah,
Yeah.
providing a free dump service is something we should deal with. Chandra, I see you raise your hand. Did you have
Yeah.
something?
No, I was just, the river.
I mean,
It
it's
is
it's
what
the
it is,
world we
yeah.
live in.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it's not as bad as it was in the past?
No,
but-
it's not full-time like it
Yeah.
was before, every time, yeah. So
Okay.
it's getting better. So we're hoping this is, one off, two off, but, and,
Sure.
and then, that was one of the things that we have changed is Chandra is going to, she's in the process still, but she's moving full-time to our recycle facility. So she can be more on hand. And then when those loads come in, she's going through them auditing regularly. So and that helps, pull out some of
Okay.
that contamination.
So
I would
were
like for
those,
you to-
sorry.
I'm sorry, Jason. I would like to be kept informed
Okay.
about that situation. I really feel pretty strongly that we shouldn't be just giving free garbage service to the community of Smith River. I don't think that's fair to any of our ratepayers, so I'd like to
Okay.
be kept
Yeah,
apprised of
we
that.
can, every month we can get an update on that.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
Joey might have something to say.
What
about
time
that.
frames were those two dumps or those two loads? When did that happen? When did it occur? Mhm.
Yeah, I can look at that. Yeah.
Okay, the last 2 weeks. Okay. Mhm. Okay.
We check it regularly. The driver checks it on Tuesday and then and then we also check it, our operations supervisor will go by towards the end of the week and make sure that it's not getting overflowed or garbage left anywhere. So we're trying to keep a good relationship with them also because they've allowed us to put, it is a much better location and it's locked up at night, but people still, when they want to do the wrong thing, they're going to find a way.
But up until this point, it's been relatively okay.
Been a lot better.
Okay. Well, maybe we just monitor that situation a little bit.
And we've just had discussions trying to find a way to maybe get cameras and do different things and have some more deterrence. So we're still actively looking at that because there's power across the street. We just have to work with the Smith River Water Board. You know, it's kind of they're the ones that are allowing it. So we need to discuss more with them
Okay.
to see if we can do some wireless remote type things.
Well, please definitely update us next month.
We will. Yeah, we'll just make
And
sure.
if it's still a problem, we'll have to probably act. So I hate to take it away, but people aren't using it correctly. We're not going to provide free garbage service.
I had one more thing, kind of maybe for Ed and you guys, and Joel's not here, but you mentioned our presence at the fairgrounds.
Hmm.
Would it be fun or doable to have some kind of contest where we have items that are recyclable and not recyclable? Some maybe common things that we see in recycling that's not recycling. And have people recycle and throw into trash for a prize. You know, could it be like a candy bar, or could it be something like a free residential run to the transfer station? I don't, you know, Hambros would probably have to be online with that. I see Ted's eyes going crazy right there with my suggestion right there. But I'm just throwing stuff out there just for the matter of, or for the reason of getting conversation
Well, we also
started. I don't know if that would work, or if we could find a way.
We also have, yeah, we also have.
There you go. Stand on this electrically charged,
Right.
no, I'm kidding.
We have some other things. We have some other things that we can help out with prizes as well. So, yeah, I mean, if we wanted to do something as a group. I know that a lot, some of the solid waste aren't going to be there. You know, so we'll be, you know, taking more of an active part this year for that. But, you know, I'm in agreement with Ted, you know, finding other ways, because people really aren't coming there to learn. They're coming there to have a good time. It's unwinding. It's, you know, doing their thing, the fair food and the fair rides and the concerts and this, you know, so it is, you know, I agree that there are definitely more captive audiences in other community events. Chandra's done a lot of different things in the farmers markets and stuff as well. And it seems like, you know, you get an audience where they're really interested in learning and wanting to know. So, you know, I don't know, but you know, obviously this year we're going to do it because we're committed to it, and we committed to help them because they're going to a conference. And so, but yeah, that's a good idea. You know?
I'm right there with you, John.
Yeah.
I agree. People aren't there to learn.
Right.
So I
But
thought if you made
we're-
something fun, and,
I agree.
you know,
Yeah,
like
might as-
that,
we're gonna give it a
maybe-
shot.
Maybe it would be helpful. I don't
Chandra
know.
has a lot of those things that she can do that with. So we can set that up.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. That'll be good.
It's a long time. And it takes a lot of staff time.
Right.
To stay there and throughout that fairgrounds. I've done it. It's not that. Yeah, nobody wants to talk to a politician or learn about trash. And I know you do have some good giveaways. You know, solid waste stuff that's there that helps people and has been given. You've had giveaways in the past and little things to entice people to come into the booth and learn a little bit about it. But it's a hard sell. I know that. So, yeah, I'm sure that there are other more events that we have that are probably more tailored towards
Yeah. The community
having that
involvement.
message being administered out, whether it's within our youth events that we have that are designed around, you know, trying to educate and conservation message and things like that going on that are probably more tailored it's towards that kind of
Definitely.
delivery. And I also, you know, the recycling symbology that's on a lot of the materials, you know, it's on there for two purposes. One, because it is, you know, a recyclable item, but others, it's just to pronounce that, you know, this is manufactured or produced with recycled items, and that's the end of its life. It's just, but it was produced by recyclable items, and it's a way to, you know, virtue signal out to the public that we're doing, you know, we're producing these
something.
things, but we're producing it from things that were used in the past. So
Right.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
All right.
answering the questions.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The opportunity to drive Ted nuts.
Those were good suggestions. We appreciate that.
And that'll bring us to 7.1, discussion, possible action regarding a 5-year review of Del Norte Regional Agency.
The next two items are closely interrelated. The first is a template report that we provide to Cal Recycle, the state agency that looks over our shoulder, to essentially give them an update about how we've been doing implementing the programs described in the Regional Agency Integrated Waste Management Plan. That was originally developed and shortly after the agency was formed to describe how Del Norte was going to cut its waste in half by the year 2000 compared to what it was in 1990. And then subsequently, those programs and the program reports get updated through the electronic annual report process. And so CURE's been doing that. And then the Solid Waste Task Force, which is an advisory body to this board, then one of the legislated roles they have is to review all of those programs and how well the authority is doing to implement them. One of the core functions of this is also to continue to make sure that we have at least 15 years of disposal capacity. And so during this review, essentially, we did discover we didn't have the full 15 years. And so part of that was folded into the change order, and that extension has now been approved. Kira, you're shaking your head?
Oh, we were just coming up to where we needed to get more time.
But we do have more time.
We had the whole time.
So that's good. And then the task force letter essentially gets forwarded to Cal Recycle, and it's essentially the voice of the local citizens about how well they think we're doing in terms of implementing our programs. I think it's worth noting here that although we have not met the disposal targets for either residences or commercial businesses in Del Norte County, this is the first report where the task force has explained a lot of the reasons why we have extra tonnage. And that includes everything from our cleanup programs with Del Norte Mission Possible to our tourist economy. But certainly the task force felt like it was worthwhile that Cal Recycle be aware of those things, as for instance, our beach cleanups are really important. And we have no intention to stop doing those, but they certainly hurt our per capita disposal numbers, because the more we collect, those materials clearly add to our disposal numbers without adding to our recycling. So in overview, we're going to submit these reports as we are required to do. I'd be happy to answer any questions or follow up as the board would like.
Yeah, the only thing I can make a recommendation is as we look at these numbers, you have broke down 2 categories. However, I know through code enforcement and through other mechanisms and through volunteer, whether it's Del Norte Mission Possible or some of these, we've seen an increase in a lot of these programs, an increase in basically tonnage being brought in from these cleanups, site cleanups, and maybe separate that out from as far as the numbers and the volume, so that can be at least understood as a it's not the normal household trash or commercial trash. It is actually something that's an issue that we're dealing with, and methodologies that we're dealing with. And as we get more active in code enforcement, as we get more active in processes, and as I can see, as we open the shelter and as we address some of these cleanup issues that we just haven't wanted to spend the money on, for the virtue of the fact that cleanups in the past have been done, but as soon as they were done, they just reintegrated and got sometimes even worse in those certain areas. And we don't want to waste our money in the process. So with the shelter opening, with code enforcement changing, hopefully, then we can go and do these cleanups. But as we do, it's going to impact our numbers going forward. So,
Thank you.
and that leads us to 7.3.
7.3 is the rate resolution. This implements the rates that were approved in the change orders adopted at the last meeting. And the new rates are described in attachments A, B, and C, the rate resolution 2025-03. And then the pages that follow that offer a comparison between the rates that we are currently charging to the rates that will be implemented under this rate ordinance starting July 1. In general, you'll see that the rate increases are typically well below 2.5%, and oftentimes hovering around 2%. But staff recommend approval of this rate resolution with the one minor change that at the bottom of the first page, it says approved on this 15th day of May. That should read the 20th day.
Entertain a motion.
With that minor correction, I will make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2025-03, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority adjusting the franchise collection rates and refused disposal rates for the Del Norte County Transfer Station, the Klamath Transfer Station, and the Gasky Transfer Station.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing none. Bring it back for a vote.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. And as we adjust these rates and as we see this going, what I just would like to see is as we go forward is just kind of monitoring the intake numbers, making sure that we're still trending about the same, that we don't see a drop off in any region within our collection domain as it goes. I want to be very cautious that we're not seeing a sudden drop off because of rates increasing, and we're going to reap the whirlwind, so to speak, as they start dumping back out into our county. Thank you.
I think you bring an important point. We don't want to price people out. That way we end up having to find it somewhere else.
Right. Bring it up to 7.4.
7.4 is the approval of the annual budget. As veterans of this board are aware, this budget has a 4-step approval process. The first step is the meeting today in which I present it. And the next 2 steps are I give the opportunity to the Board of Supervisors and the Crescent City Council for feedback and input into the budget. And then it finally returns to you at the June meeting for final approval. Our budget is approved before other county departments. And it's worth noting in this budget that during the next fiscal year, the county intends to implement a new accounting system. And so on this budget, I've added my best guesses to the Del Norte County Code that would correlate to the new budget line, so you can see how they relate. But a lot of our budget lines don't have a current correlation, and I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work out. And so I did ask Clinton Shad about how we should go about this, because we are sort of early adopters, so to speak, and that we're bringing forth our budget earlier than other departments. And he said, go ahead and use the existing budget line numbers, try to correlate them, but we'll deal with that later. So in general, this is a balanced budget. As I reviewed at the last time when we were looking at our fiscal audit, our agency is now in the black. So that adds a little bit of flexibility that in prior years we didn't always have. So I'm grateful for that. There are a number of changes here in this budget, including I've added a 20% increase to salaries and benefits. Not that we will absolutely spend that, but it's I believe during this next fiscal year, it will become evident. We'll start fleshing out the transition plan and seeing exactly how that's going to work as I start to look at retirement in the next few years. It's also time to buy a new vehicle. Our 1996 Toyota 4Runner has been in use for over 20 years, and it's approaching the end of its life. The repair costs are getting more each year. And there are statewide rules that, how should I put it, will impact our available choice of vehicles. So we'll look at making sure that we're conforming with all of those laws. But in general, what you see before you is a balanced budget. And I believe there's money and flexibility to do what we need to do. You'll see the property line has a significant balance to it. That's not something that I necessarily anticipate we will spend next year, unless the Taloadeni Nation expresses a passionate interest in moving the Northern Transfer Station promptly. But without their active engagement, I don't anticipate a lot of activity moving that project forward. But we still have ongoing property issues, as the board is aware. So with that, I suppose I would recommend that the board approve this budget for presentation to the city council and the board of supervisors, and to receive their input, and then to bring it back for final approval to the subsequent meeting.
So I have a quick question. So as far as outreach goes, have we reached out to the Toledani recently about that? Are we staying on this project, or?
We're in regular communication with their staff in the Environmental Services Department, and we essentially follow what they think is going to be best about the staff of that department is very aware of the challenges that the tribe faces, and they're much more aware of the politics of the tribal council than I would be. And so I defer to them.
And they've shown that there's not really an interest at this time. Maybe in the
Yes,
maybe in the
that would be a reasonable
future.
summary. It's not a strong enough interest to actually make forward motion.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one little clarifying question. In today's consent calendar, there's an insurance payment for $12,000.
Yeah.
And on the first page of the budget, a little above halfway down the page, there's insurance office. I have no idea if that's the same thing, but it's for $10,000.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find another insurance bill or budget item for $12,000 in here. I'm just wondering if that was a small oversight.
Thank you for asking about that. You're exactly right, first of all. And right, victory.
I'll take the win when I can.
The complication is this. The transfer station was challenged to find insurance coverage in California that meets the California insurance requirements. And because there was no insurance provider that was willing to cover those requirements, essentially we fell onto what's known as the California Fair Plan. The California Fair Plan is an insurance essentially of last resort that's available through the state. And our last time we paid for this, it was a little over $10,000. The initial estimates that we got this time were looking more like $6,000 to $7,000 in that range.
Okay.
I deliberately asked for the $12,000 approval so that if it came in high, we could still get insurance. Not because I expected to spend that.
Okay.
So that's the reason for the discrepancy.
Perfect. Okay. That answers the one and only question I had. Thank you.
So it's a not to exceed 12,000.
And I anticipate it's going to be closer to 7.
Okay. Thank you.
Entertain a motion?
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we adopt the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
Motion. A second?
I'll second.
Nope, got a second. Have a motion and a second. Any public comment?
Who seconded that? Thank you.
Any public comment? Receiving none? Pull the vote, please.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Short, Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. And that'll bring us to 7.5.
This last item is essentially, as a government agency, we don't generally prepay anything. We always get the bill and then we pay the bill. However, our IT services coordinator identified a phone system that is saving us a lot of money. And that system requires us that we prepay it. It's not a big expense. It's about $15 a month. And so under the worst of circumstances, I can't imagine us having more than $50 outstanding in this prepayment, but it will save us money for having done so. So the county auditor's office basically said, if you want to prepay this, you got to have the board approve it. And then I drafted the memo and they said that looks like it'll be fine. So staff recommend the adoption of that the board approve prepayments for authority communication expenses as long as the financial exposure of such prepayments remains less than $50.
So moved.
And I will second.
Have a motion and a second. normally drug dealers and cartels use burner phones, not waste management authorities. However, I'm questionable on your conduct and your business operations.
We don't do incineration.
Please poll the vote.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. That brings us to the end of our scheduled meeting, and I adjourn. Thank you very much for your attendance and your attention.
Thank you.